Well, greetings everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. If you have been coming across conversations about dividend payments being distributed to millions of Americans at this very moment, I want you to set everything else aside because what we are about to share is specifically meant for you. Here is the honest reality. So many older adults we connect with on a daily basis have absolutely no idea that they may already be eligible for funds that are essentially sitting in a waiting state ready to be collected. And that genuinely saddens us because you have spent your entire life working hard and you are deserving of every single dollar that rightfully belongs to you. Now, throughout this video, we are going to take you step by step through exactly who is eligible, how much you could potentially receive, and the straightforward actions you need to take to make sure you do not get left behind. No frustrating government terminology, no buried fine print, just clear and honest information delivered the way it always should have been. We are laying out the complete picture from beginning to end right here, because not a single person should be excluded simply because the information surrounding these programs was presented in a way that was too difficult to follow. So if this feels like something you or someone close to you genuinely needs to hear, go ahead and show your support and let us jump into this together right now. Now, before we get into the heart of this discussion, we want to take just a brief moment to say that if this happens to be your first time watching, welcome, and we are truly glad you found us. This platform was built with a very specific group of people in mind, dedicated Americans who spent decades pouring themselves into this country, raising children, paying into the system, and doing absolutely everything that was asked of them. And now you deserve a place that speaks to you directly, without all the confusing terminology and political back and forth. So if that resonates with you, make sure you click subscribe so that you never miss a video like this one, because we cover this type of critical information consistently, and you absolutely do not want to find out about something important after everyone else already has. All right, now let us get into what is genuinely happening right now, because there is an enormous amount of noise circulating, and we want to help you filter through all of it clearly. Here is where we need to begin. The term dividend tends to immediately bring to mind Wall Street trading floors and wealthy investors seated behind massive desks in high-rise buildings. And honestly, that reaction makes complete sense. For a very long time, that is precisely how the financial media framed the conversation. But friends, that image belongs to the past. And even more importantly, it has absolutely nothing to do with what we are discussing here today. Because what we are talking about right now has zero connection to owning a brokerage account or possessing any kind of advanced financial knowledge. This is about actual money, genuine programs, and real opportunities that exist for everyday Americans, many of whom have never once been introduced to them. Allow us to walk you through what has been unfolding behind closed doors and explain why so many people are only beginning to discover this information now. Over the course of the last several years, a growing and consistent effort has emerged at both the state and national level to ensure that older Americans, particularly those living on fixed incomes, are actually receiving the financial support they are legally owed. Some of this arrives in the form of dividend-style distributions connected to state surplus fund allocations. Some of it flows through federal assistance programs that have been quietly broadened in scope, and some of it comes through unclaimed benefits and financial assistance programs that an enormous number of Americans simply have never been made aware of. Programs that are sitting on funds right now connected to names just like yours, simply waiting for someone to step forward and collect them. Now, we completely understand what some of you might be thinking at this moment. You might be sitting there saying, all right, but is this actually legitimate, because I have come across things like this in the past and they turned out to be nothing but empty promises. And we have tremendous respect for that level of skepticism. Honestly, we think that kind of careful thinking is healthy and appropriate. You should absolutely question anything that presents itself as too convenient or too rewarding to be real. But here is the critical point we want you to walk away with. What we are discussing today is not a guarantee of wealth. It is not some shortcut to financial freedom. It is simply a straightforward and honest conversation about money and programs that are already in existence, that your tax contributions have already helped fund, and that you may genuinely be entitled to receive. That is the complete picture. Nothing beyond that and nothing less than that. So let us begin at the very foundation and approach this the right way from the start. The first thing you need to understand is that throughout the United States right now, there are dozens of programs operating at both the state and national level that have been specifically funded to deliver financial relief to seniors and people who have retired. These programs carry different names, operate under different frameworks, and come with different eligibility criteria depending on your specific location. But the single characteristic they all share without exception is this: they are genuine. They are funded and operational, and millions of Americans meet the qualifications without ever being aware of it. One of the primary reasons people fail to access these programs comes down to a simple lack of awareness. The government does not have a strong track record of sending out attention-grabbing notices that say, "Hey, there is money here that belongs to you." Instead, information has a tendency to get buried deep inside government websites, referenced briefly in official press releases that virtually nobody ever reads, or mentioned in community gatherings that the majority of people never attend. And so what becomes the outcome? The funds sit there year after year, completely unclaimed, while the very individuals these programs were created to support go without the help they deserve. That is precisely why conversations like the one we are having right now carry so much weight. Because if we are able to reach even a single person today, one senior, one retiree, one hardworking American who was completely unaware that any of this existed, then this video has accomplished exactly what it was designed to do. Now let us discuss who actually qualifies, because this is consistently the piece that catches people off guard. You might naturally assume that these types of financial support programs exist exclusively for individuals living in extreme financial hardship or those with absolutely no income at all. But that assumption is simply incorrect. A significant number of these programs have income thresholds that are considerably more generous than most people would ever expect. In fact, a large portion of middle-income seniors, individuals who own their homes, individuals who collect Social Security, individuals who have built up modest savings over their lifetime, still qualify for various categories of financial support that they have never once applied for simply because they assumed their income level placed them out of reach. Please absorb what we are saying right now. Do not rule yourself out before you have even taken the time to check your eligibility. That assumption alone has robbed millions of Americans of real and meaningful money over the years, and we refuse to let it cost you as well. Age stands as one of the most consistently applied qualifying factors across the full spectrum of these programs. If you are 60 years of age or older, you are already positioned within the exact demographic that an overwhelming number of these programs were specifically created to serve. Being a United States citizen or a legal resident is another requirement that appears across programs regularly. Having a fixed or limited income, which accurately describes the majority of retired seniors who depend on Social Security as their primary financial resource, frequently makes you more eligible rather than less. And in many situations, simply having contributed to the system over a certain number of years through your work history and your tax payments is sufficient to unlock access to benefits that have been quietly attached to your name without your knowledge. There's also another dimension we want to raise because we believe it is critically important and it consistently gets overlooked in these types of discussions, and that is the entire issue of unclaimed property and unclaimed financial assets. At this very moment, every single state across this country is holding on to billions, and we want to be absolutely clear that we mean billions of dollars in funds that have gone unclaimed. These consist of things like forgotten savings accounts, checks that were never cashed, life insurance policies that were never collected on, utility security deposits that were never refunded, and yes, dividend distributions from investments that were established many decades ago and then completely forgotten over time. The National Association of Unclaimed Property Administrators has reported that there are currently more than 60 million unclaimed property accounts existing in the United States alone. 60 million individual accounts. And the people to whom those accounts rightfully belong, a substantial portion of them are seniors. A substantial portion of them are the adult children and grandchildren of individuals who have passed away and left behind financial assets that no surviving family member ever thought to pursue. Here is the genuinely encouraging part of all of this. Every single state maintains a free and official searchable database where you can look up unclaimed property registered under your name. The process takes approximately 5 minutes. You enter your name, you select your state, and the system immediately displays whether anything is currently being held in your name. And if something does appear, you submit a straightforward claim, you supply some standard identification documentation, and that money gets sent directly back to you. No processing fees, no third-party intermediaries, no hidden conditions. It already belongs to you and always has. Now, we want to take a brief pause here because we are aware that some of you are watching this alongside a family member at this very moment. Perhaps a husband or wife, perhaps a grown child, perhaps a brother or sister. And we want to speak to those individuals directly for just a moment. If you are watching this video together with an older person you love, please take every word of this seriously. Please sit down with them and help them search these databases. Please guide them through the process of navigating these programs, because the reality is that many seniors are absolutely capable of handling their own financial affairs independently. But the online platforms and the bureaucratic procedures involved can be genuinely overwhelming to work through, particularly when someone is managing health challenges or when digital technology does not feel entirely natural or comfortable. Stepping in as that supportive presence for someone who matters to you could genuinely result in hundreds or even thousands of dollars being returned to their hands. That is a concrete and meaningful contribution you can make to their life starting today. And for those of you navigating this entirely on your own, please do not feel any sense of discouragement or defeat. We are committed to making every step of this as approachable as we possibly can. And whenever questions come up, that is precisely what the comment section exists for. We go through every single comment and we make every effort to point you toward the right resources and the right answers. Now let us return specifically to the subject of dividend checks, because we are fully aware that this is the topic that brought the majority of you to this video today, and we want to make sure we address it completely and thoroughly. When we reference dividend-style payments currently being distributed to Americans, we are actually describing a few different things that are taking place at the same time. In certain states, surplus revenue distribution programs exist in situations where the state government collected a larger amount of tax revenue than was originally anticipated. And rather than retaining the entire surplus, those states are returning a portion of those funds to residents through direct payment distributions. Alaska has maintained this structure for multiple decades through its permanent fund dividend program, and a growing number of other states have introduced their own comparable versions. The payment amounts vary based on the individual state and the specific fiscal year, but these are legitimate checks being delivered to real people. And if you happen to reside in one of these participating states, you may already be included on the distribution list. Beyond that, there are conversations happening at the federal level, some of which have already advanced into concrete action, surrounding the expansion of financial support specifically targeting seniors. This includes Social Security benefit adjustments, Medicare savings programs, and low-income subsidy structures designed to reduce prescription medication costs. All of these operate in a manner that consistently places additional money back into the daily budget of older Americans. And while they may not carry the label of dividend checks in the traditional financial sense, the practical impact they have on your monthly expenses is functionally identical. additional income coming in, more financial breathing space, and a meaningful reduction in daily stress. And speaking of stress, let us address that directly for a moment because we believe it is the subject that too many people are reluctant to bring into the open. A significant number of the seniors who are part of this community have shared in comments and personal messages that one of the heaviest burdens they carry with them every single day is financial anxiety. The deep and persistent fear of exhausting their savings before their time runs out. The constant worry about what happens when a medical expense arrives that their Medicare plan does not fully absorb. The ongoing stress of watching the price of everyday groceries continue climbing while their monthly Social Security payment remains unchanged. These are not abstract concerns. They are deeply real, and they are entirely valid. And we want you to know, with complete sincerity, that we recognize that reality. We hear every word, and this is the driving reason behind every video we produce, because information genuinely changes things. And when you have clarity about what is available to you, when you understand where to direct your attention, what applications to submit, and what you are rightfully entitled to claim, that financial anxiety does not vanish entirely, but it does become significantly more manageable because you transition from feeling like a passive subject of a system that operates beyond your influence to feeling like a fully informed individual who understands how to engage with that system in a way that works in your favor. And that transformation, that particular shift in perspective, is everything. Now, we want to take just a brief moment to acknowledge those of you who have remained with us through this entire discussion. And we sincerely mean it when we say that means a great deal to us. We want to gently remind you that if you are finding this information genuinely useful and you have not yet shown your support for this video, please take a moment to do that right now. It may feel like an insignificant gesture, but it creates a truly meaningful difference in our ability to connect with additional seniors who need access to exactly this type of information. Every single like communicates to the platform that this content carries real value. And when the platform recognizes that signal, it presents this video to a wider audience. A wider audience translates directly into more seniors receiving the knowledge they deserve. So in a very real and tangible sense, taking that moment to show your support is an act of genuine generosity directed at people you have never crossed paths with. And we know without question that the individuals who make up this community fully understand just how powerful that kind of quiet generosity can be. So go ahead and tap that support button if you are still with us. And let us continue because we are still building toward the most actionable part of everything we have covered today. One of the most significant things we want you to carry with you as we move into the closing portion of today's discussion is this single message. Please, we are genuinely asking you, do not delay taking action. That is the single most common and most costly mistake people consistently make when they learn about programs like these. They hear the information. They think to themselves, I really need to follow up on that. And then the demands of daily life take over and days become weeks and they never actually follow through. And then at some point down the road, they discover that the enrollment period closed, or that the application window expired, or that the available funds were fully distributed because too many other eligible people moved forward before them. These programs frequently operate on a first-come, first-served structure. In many situations, the funding is not open-ended, and the individuals who take swift action are the ones who walk away with real results. So whether that next step is checking the unclaimed property search tool for your particular state, investigating whether a dividend distribution program applies to your area, reviewing your current eligibility for a Medicare savings program, or simply picking up the phone and calling your nearest local aging services office to ask what support programs exist in your community, take that step today. Not at some point tomorrow, not sometime in the coming week, today. You have already been patient long enough. You have already invested enough of yourself into this country and into your community, and you deserve to collect every single resource and every single dollar that is legitimately waiting for you. We are going to bring this discussion to a close in just a few moments, but we promise you that what we are covering next is every bit as important as everything we have already walked through together. So stay exactly where you are.